What's good, everybody? It's Matthew Broomfield, and I'm back again with some Madden 21 gameplay. And as you see, I'm playing the yard. My prototype I usually use for the yard is the quarterback and safety prototype. I usually use that when I play with my boys. I just like being in control of the offense and, having that freedom to pick the plays and throw the ball where I want to. But other than that, we're also going to discuss the upcoming NFL season, as there's been a lot of moves in the offseason that has been made. But we can't start that without doing a recap of last season. Obviously, Tom Brady solidified his greatness even more by winning his 7th ring within his first year of being with the Bucks. So props out to him. And to be honest, if you still do not like that man, just go find some resolve in your heart and get over it. Like, you can't say nothing else about him. He literally won 7 rings by himself. So, well, not by himself. I mean, obviously it takes a team, but you know what I mean. Like, there's no reason for you to hate him. They beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The outcome of that, Patrick Mahomes did have a good game, but they did get rid of most of their offensive line this season. They definitely weren't a help last year against the Bucks defense, even though he threw for over 400 yards. Patrick Mahomes was getting pressured a lot, so that's a move they did. Also, something in the news, a little drama. Le'Veon Bell discussed his frustration with Andy Reid as a football coach on social media, and it kind of raised some eyebrows for sure. Tyrann Mathieu responded to him, basically kind of denying the fact and just saying it's a personal problem that Le'Veon Bell has with himself. My thoughts on it is just that it's kind of sad to see Le'Veon Bell. I definitely liked his playing style, and trust me, I'm not a Steelers fan at all. The last person to be a Steelers fan on this earth, but I definitely liked him as a player, and it was just sad for him to go from Pittsburgh the way he did with the contract negotiations and the contract disputes, to end his way eventually to the Jets for less money. And it really didn't work out there playing for the Jets, as you know what type of team they have been for the past couple years. And you would have thought that him going to the Chiefs, it was definitely a scary sight for sure, because, the Chiefs have so many offensive weapons. But you would have thought that him making it to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs at least would have made him happier as a player and be respected a little bit more. But with him, these comments, it's surprising to see that he wasn't. Maybe it was just the playing time he wasn't getting, but I'm not sure, and I'm not here to sit here and figure that out. I definitely don't have the expertise to do that, but it's just sad to see him go out this way again. So it's going to be interesting to see what team is going to pick him up. But let's talk about the biggest off-season move that has happened, and that's in Julio Jones leaving the Atlanta Falcons and going to the Tennessee Titans. That's a big score for the Tennessee Titans to win. It just makes their offense that much more versatile. It's just going to be hard to imagine how defenses are going to stop the Titans now, because the obvious, Derrick Henry is a 2,000-yard rusher. He is the best running back in the league by far, and kicked it up a notch. And they don't have to give him the ball that much times. They were giving him about 27 to 30 carries a game almost last year, and he definitely did what he needed to do. He ran the ball like clockwork. But you also have A.J. Brown, who's definitely has the potential to be a superstar within the next 2 years. But you can make an argument that he's one of the top 10 receivers in this league as of right now. And just his frame and his versatility to run the deep ball, run the short routes, play in the slot, play on the outside, he's just that good of a receiver. And adding Julio Jones to the mix, Julio Jones is definitely the best receiver in the league by far. You have DeAndre Hopkins and all that stuff, but Julio Jones is just one of those receivers that he doesn't need much receptions to make a lot of gain of yards. His yak is one of his best statistical categories. He's definitely had games where he came out, like the game against Carolina a couple years back, 12 receptions for like 300 yards. Just the things he able to do with the ball. He has the bigger frame to go up and get the ball. He has the speed to beat people off the release. And after he catches the ball, he's just a Calvin Johnson, if not maybe even better. I'm definitely glad to see him that he left Atlanta, because Matt Ryan just wasn't respecting him enough. And I'm not saying that was done purposely, but Matt Ryan is definitely a decent quarterback. He wants to utilize all his weapons, and like Calvin Ridley and all that. But at the end of the day, if you have a player as Julio Jones, you need to get him the ball and feed him the ball. So him being an addition to the Titans, they're gonna double him. Defenses are gonna double him, and if you don't double him, you're just going to pay. And if you do double him, AJ Brown's going to have one-on-one chances and looks. And let's say if you just take the passing game completely away, the Titans are going to go back to doing what they're usually doing and give Derrick Henry the ball a lot of times, and he's going to have another 2,000-yard season. So, it's just going to be very tricky for defenses to play against that. Another big offseason move, definitely by far, is Jadeveon Clowney getting signed to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, as you know, last year they made it to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. They blew out the Steelers, which was surprising, and they also played a good game against the Chiefs. And people might have found that surprising, but the Browns were definitely one of those teams that was scoring at least above 35 in about 4 games or 5 games. I think they were up there with the Chiefs and putting that many points up. So a lot of people didn't think they were going to put points on the board, but they definitely did. But signing Jadeveon Clowney to that defensive line is just going to be spectacular. It's going to release some of the double teams that the offensive line of other teams have been getting Myles Garrett off of the edge. And so Myles Garrett was still doing a spectacular job, and he was eating for sure with double teams on him. So, if you want to put a double team on him now, that's good and all, but Jadeveon Clowney is definitely going to get his stats up. He's going to get his sacks and pressures up, man. If you don't, then it's just going to be a nightmare for offense coordinators to deal with that. They also added Troy Hill from the Los Angeles Rams to add in their secondary as the safety slot, and I believe that just solidifies their defensive back squad. This Browns definitely had a decent defensive back squad always, but adding Troy Hill and then also drafting Greg Newsome Jr., who's showing improvement and doing very, very well, showing promising talent and OTAs by far, it's just going to give their defense more versatility, and it's going to be advantageous for them. They still have Denzel Ward, which hopefully he has most of the season to be healthy, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Greedy Williams as well. Maybe they might have to introduce a lot of more nickel coverages, because now you have 3 corners that can definitely play the game by far, against teams like that. And then their front 7 is just going to be their front 7. It's going to be unstoppable, so they're really solidifying that. And then if you look at their offense too as well, like Rashad Higgins is brought back, Jarvis Landry staying, Odell Beckham, which he's been frustrated the last couple of years of being hurt and not really having his breakout season as he usually is, even though he's still a great player. He's coming back very healthy, and I think Baker Mayfield has come into his confidence more as an NFL starting quarterback and a franchise quarterback. So I believe they're going to be a scary sight. They're definitely going to make the playoffs again. It's just going to be difficult to see how their conference will play out, because the AFC North, their division, the AFC North is really a tough division now. If you look at the Ravens, they drafted a couple of receivers to help Lamar Jackson, but they obviously have been that top team of that conference year in, year out for the past couple of years. They're definitely going to do their thing. The Browns, as I just mentioned and went over them quickly, they're straight now. They're definitely one of the top teams to compete with in the league for sure, by far. And if you look at the Steelers, this is a real interesting team to look at, because they started off the season last year 11-0, and they basically lost out at the end of the season to end up 12-4 and got the first round exit, or the first round boot, by the Browns in the playoffs. But let's not count them out all the way as well and call them bust, because they've been making moves in this offseason too that's been very slick. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is drafting Najee Harris out of Alabama to eventually replace James Conner. Najee Harris definitely has that running back potential to be a star He's definitely the best running back in the draft. Like, no doubt about that at all. I think his work ethic that has been in the media by far by the Steelers during OTAs and stuff, and this is just OTAs. This isn't even like camp, like this, you know what I'm saying? So his work ethic is just up there. Like, he's just a star of the league already. So he does have the promising potential, and I think this was his breakout year to put his stamp on the league. Like, hey, even though I'm a rookie, like, I'm nothing to play with. To be like a Saquon Barkley and stuff like that, like Nick Chubb, you know, come out and do good. But the move that really opened my eyes a little bit to put the scope on it a little bit more is the signing of Dwayne Haskins, and here's why. The Steelers have been putting full confidence and faith into Ben Roethlisberger all these years, which has been kind of some tough relationships with people like AB and Le'Veon Bell for sure. But I think that I was afraid that they were going to fall into the trap because the Steelers have a history of replacing good players, and their rebuilding process has been the smoothest by any other team in the league. I mean, if you look at AB replacing Emmanuel Sanders and Mike Wallace in 2011, you know, Le'Veon Bell coming in and then James Conner being drafted to play behind Le'Veon Bell, so when he leave, he can do his job and carry the rock. And then obviously Juju Smith-Schuster being drafted, and Chase Claypool to eventually replace Antonio Brown. They've just been doing a good job of making sure they're not falling to the bottom of the barrel when they're in their rebuilding years. And my fear was that they weren't going to do that with the quarterback position because they drafted a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Mason Rudolph, which he didn't seem to work out. Duck Hodges didn't seem to work out. And I forget the quarterback from Tennessee, his name, but he really hasn't gotten a chance to shine. But with the signing of Dwayne Haskins, a lot of people might have thought it was a risky move just because of the way he had his exit in Washington over the personal life drama and everything. But I believe that Dwayne Haskins still has a chance to be a good quarterback. Like, let's not forget, people wanted the New York Giants to draft him over Daniel Jones. And that's only because he threw for like 50 touchdowns in college at Ohio State. He definitely was a bigger size quarterback who was a pocket passer, a true pocket passer, which usually doesn't happen for the black quarterback mold. So he was definitely supposed to be that NFL ready prospect. But just the way things went in Washington, let's just be honest, like, Washington doesn't have the offense to set quarterbacks up for success. And, you know, Dwayne Haskins being the guy he is, you know, whatever he had happen on the personal life of things, he just probably needed to be humbled a little bit. And I think he's learned his lesson. I think he's getting his way around the ropes. And I think Mike Tomlin's seen that. And Mike Tomlin also expressed his interest on getting to know who Dwayne Haskins is as a person and hopefully getting him back on track so they can basically invest into him for the long term. His size and frame is similar to Big Ben's. He's not probably athletic and mobile as Big Ben. I haven't seen him really run too much, but at the end of the day, I know he's going to sit in the pocket and deliver the ball if they get him right. So I believe that was just a good move, and that was kind of the Pittsburgh Steelers saying, like, hey, we know we expressed our confidence into Ben Roethlisberger, but, you know, with the addition of Dwayne Haskins playing behind him and also giving him a 1-year contract extension, and he's taking a $5 million pay cut, it shows that they're definitely thinking for the long term and not going to invest in Big Ben much longer. I don't see them investing to him maybe after this year, and if it's a stretch, I don't think he's going to be playing in the league for 2 years. I think he's going to be one to retire. So, you know, there are definitely no slacks, and with the return of Devin Bush to that defense, I mean, come on, like, the Pittsburgh Steelers was on pace to set, I believe, like almost 80 sacks last year. Like, they were going to be having the most sacks in league history, I believe. They were on pace to set, but TJ Watt definitely should have had Defensive Player of the Year for sure. I mean, that was my pick. He's just that great of a edge rusher and a outside linebacker. He's just so mobile and versatile. And I believe Devin Bush, if he was healthy last year, it probably would have been a different sight to see. Necessarily not saying they would have been successful in the playoffs, but they definitely probably wouldn't have lost all those games at the end of the season. So that's definitely a team to watch. That's my eyes on team to definitely watch. I believe, two teams are definitely going to make it into the playoffs out of the AFC North, but I believe one of the AFC North teams will be in the AFC Championship. I will call that right now. So just don't know who. But last but not least, let's talk about the NFL draft. The narrative behind the NFL draft was definitely the fact that it was just the draft of the quarterbacks again. And obviously, if you look at it, Trevor Lawrence went first overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which wasn't really a surprise. I mean, maybe people thought Urban Meyer, being the coach of the Jaguars, would have picked his Ohio State alumni and Justin Fields, but Trevor Lawrence wasn't a bad move. He definitely has the bigger frame and build of an NFL quarterback that you would like to see. Zach Wilson going to the New York Jets. That I don't think personally the Jets needed to make that move, and that's because I believe I still see some potential in the Sam Darnold. I think that his success in New York didn't turn out to be well, and it wasn't all his fault. I believe the New York Jets just didn't set him up as an organization to give him the same support, and that's because him and Baker Mayfield were similar statistical players when they first came into the league. And as you seen, Baker Mayfield had a better offensive system than Sam Darnold, and he ended up to be successful now. Got to know the ropes of the game, but I don't think the Jets provided that same support to Sam Darnold. With him being shipped to Carolina, though, I think it's better to play with McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel and all those players. But at the end of the day, hopefully his confidence isn't shot. With the addition of the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator being the head coach, that was a favorite pick that everybody in the league kind of seen coming. And it was a good pick, and I think it's going to do justice to change that organization around. I just hope that Zach Wilson has better support than Sam Darnold did, because the success rate of rookie quarterbacks isn't that high. It's starting to get better, of course, with Joe Burrow going to Cincinnati. Even though they weren't winning, he was playing lights out until he got hurt. But Zach Wilson is a little bit more mobile, and I think that's the trend now. The same thing with San Francisco and drafting Trey Lance. I feel like that was just a fad move. Trey Lance is definitely going to be for the future. He's more mobile. We can do more RPOs, which is becoming a popular thing in the league on offense. Play action is definitely coming back into play. And they need one of these bigger frame mobile quarterbacks that can move and throw the ball on the run. And I believe that Zach Wilson and Trey Lance are both quarterbacks that can have the potential to do that. So I'm kind of hurt that Jimmy G, definitely has that quarterback behind him. Young quarterback behind him, because I believe Jimmy G is a good fit for the 49ers. He definitely did take him to the Super Bowl. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But last but not least, I have my eyes on Justin Fields. Chicago Bears drafted him. He's definitely right now solidified the number 2 slot on the depth chart. And I don't think that's a slight on his skill and talent. I believe that's the Bears just taking that security and to grooming him as a quarterback, and to let Andy Dalton, who is a veteran, even though he might not be as great, he didn't have success in Dallas, which wasn't his fault to me, but nevertheless, I believe the Chicago Bears are not trying to make the mistake of starting him too soon and putting him against something they know they can't support him with. I believe they're trying to do things the right way by him, and they know they don't have a good offensive line like that. They just got through a tough time with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, so I believe they're just trying to set Justin Fields up so he can be that quarterback with the confidence to develop his talent to play for the next 10 plus years. There are some things to look at. People might question his inaccuracy, but I think it's just that he trusts a lot of his star players. So seeing him play with Darryl Mooney, who's a quicker receiver, will be interesting to see. I just think that his ball placement at Ohio State was just due to he had trust and confidence in his players to go get it at the areas that he put it in. You can see a lot of that in the Clemson footage. The only thing that I believe that people might have to worry about is his trouble against pressure. And I believe if you watch the Northwestern game and the Alabama game, you could see that he struggled with the pressure a lot. He was a lot of times just getting the ball out to his first read, and it was just causing a lot of interceptions or incompletions. And that kind of worries me a little bit, but not too much, because I mean, you can't be perfect in the league, obviously. So you're going to have some flaws as a quarterback to work on, but I believe he can fix that. He definitely has the prototype and the confidence to kill and be that person to, you know, go down people's necks and get the ball down the field and trust his players. So that's something to look out for. I believe he will probably have the most successful career if Chicago does right by him. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all for tuning into my video. Keep on the lookout for those teams and players, and definitely keep your eyes on that. And like, comment, and subscribe, and share my video. With that being said, peace out, and God bless.